Okay, before I begin, I just want to wish all you guys a happy holidays. I hope you guys had a very wonderful, safe, and family oriented Christmas, spending it with all your loved ones, as well as I hope your new year was even safer and fulfilling. And I hope all of us, all across the world, is looking forward for a more eventful, prosperous, and even hopeful New Year's coming 2018. I'm sure I'm looking forward for this new year. I'm actually glad that the old year of 2017 has passed us, and I can now look ahead to what lies in store for this year. With that being said, I decided to go back and take a look at some of the stories that has happened, not only this year, but just basically what's been going on in the past few years. Entertainment has had some ups and some downs, as you guys have followed, if you choose to follow the entertainment circuit as much as I have. There has been some great accomplishments for Hollywood, some huge failures for Hollywood, some controversial events that has happened over the years, all the way to the events that pretty much will lead to changes coming forward. Some changes you guys may not like. Also, it's not just the movie circuit, but the video game circuit is also is included here, because video game is a form of entertainment, and some of the stuff that's been happening, not just this year, and believe me, this year is a big controversy going forward, but for the last few years, which leads me to talk about the stuff here. So this is pretty much a top of list that I feel that need to talk about, that is important to me going forward here in 2018, and hopefully with the events that's happening over the course of a few years, it will lead to changes in how Hollywood thinks, how the video game has been doing, as well as how the music industry is doing as well. I'm not leaving them off, even though the music industry surprisingly has been on the pretty much quiet list. There has been some controversy that has happened that made the big circuit. Like of course you have Adele possibly retiring, and also canceling some of her concerts due to laryngitis. But in all, it is a very sad event, because she is a great singer. I consider her one of the last great original singers that I've grown to appreciate and respect. I do have some of her music. Skyfall to me is one of the top 5 best Bond songs I've heard. Many people disagree with me, but I do think that that Skyfall is a good music, and overall, I think she's a great artist. So it's going to be sad to see one of the great ones step aside. God knows we need great artists in the music industry these days with the stuff they're pouring out there. It's one of the reasons why I support some of the musicians that are independently like Epic Rap Battles, as well as some of the music industry I follow even on Twitter. Let's be honest, they're some of the best music are the ones that are not being put out by the record industry. But that's neither here or there. That's actually been a pretty much quiet thing that's been going on. Stuff has happened over the last few years, including in 2017, not so quiet, because a lot of people have talked about it. A lot of people have shared videos about it. A lot of people have actually voiced their opinions about it, aka Angry Joe, all the way to those who literally make a living out of talking about entertainment. And I myself have been following it because, one, the media can't stop talking about it, and two, it has been such a big deal that industries as well as people are starting to step up and talk about it and make voices about it and make changes about it. So these are stories that absolutely had a strong impact and will continue to have the impact even years after I even stopped making these videos, because it still is issues that is done. Now, I wrote a list here of 6 things that definitely need to be talked about, and I'm going to be pretty much going right through the list of everything that's happened, from the least to pretty much the most biggest impact that has happened leading down to 2017. So I hope you guys are ready for a nice lengthy audio podcast, because I got a lot to say what is happening. Let's start with the first thing I wanted to say here, and that is Japanese animation. Japanese animation, especially Japanese movies, has always been somewhat a part of our culture, whether we know it or not. We had Japanese animation all the way back from the 70s. Many people don't even realize how Speed Racer came to be. Speed Racer, along with a lot of other shows that we have probably grown up, like Robotech, Voltron, were all Japanese animation. They wasn't created in the United States. They were Japanese animation that was dubbed here. It became even more mainstream when other shows like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Digimon started to make their way into the circuit and became vastly popular. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is still popular. I believe they're on their 6th series now. I stopped watching after GX, of course, and I still, dub into the other ones from time to time. But they're still going strong and they're still doing good. Even Japanese manga from the Power Rangers still going strong even after all these years. A show that I honestly think it should have been canceled. But Japanese media has always been a huge part of our lives, which is really why I'm kind of surprised at how the films over the last few years has been treated here. As you all know, 2 major films, and it is more than that. I'm just looking at these 2 major films because I actually have spoken about this in more lengthy terms on Twitter. Did a trend on Twitter about this, and it really has sparked it to put it on this list. But it has been an issue that I've seen some reviewers, especially those who have reviewed the Yu-Gi-Oh! Dark Side Dimension movie, some good reviews, some bad reviews. I actually liked it, both sides of the coins, and I actually gave my own 2 cents about it. But I never really dove into the simple fact is that Yu-Gi-Oh! Wasn't really mass promoted in theaters. It wasn't something that people actually even knew about. I found out about it through YouTube. YouTube actually promoted this film. If you go to all the places that promote, card games, tournament games, they had the poster of Dark Side Dimension. But it wasn't really a big major marketing event, to the point where not many even professional reviewers reviewed this movie. Hell, only the fan base reviewers, those who have watched the shows and those who have loved the show, actually took the time to actually not only watch the film in certain select theaters and certain screenings, but actually went back and talked about it, thus giving it word of mouth. This is especially true with another film that actually came out in theaters. A friend of mine, my co-host from J&J Mondays, actually talked about this, and that is Pokemon. Gotta Catch 'Em All. It says they pretty much a rebooted movie, basically retelling the story of Ash and Pikachu and their journey to become Pokemon Masters. I'm gonna tell you right now, I didn't know this movie even existed until Double Toasted have talked about it. Double Toasted have talked about it, and it was because of a controversy, which is not that big of a deal, and my friend pretty much confirmed that. But here's the thing. Yes, there was trailers on YouTube. Yes, there was people talking about it, Pokemon fans. But overall, that's it. And this is something that concerns me, to the point where I actually went back and actually went to stores to look at some of the Japanese animation movies that did make it to the United States, but never was promoted. People don't realize that there's actually 2 more Digimon movies. They may be even more. I didn't even know there was actually not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4. I knew about the first 4. I didn't know about the other 5 Pokemon movies that came out. Some of them probably made the U.S., some of them didn't. But in all, there has been Japanese films that came out in the U.S., but never really gotten that U.S. push as much as they could. In fact, they hardly got any mention at all, which to me, if you're going to release a film in the U.S. and you're hoping to do good, the one thing you wanted to do, especially for a film that costs a lot of money to make, is to get the push. And I feel that Japanese animation doesn't really do that as much as it used to, especially with big known properties like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, one of the major things is that Yu-Gi-Oh! The first film, which is The Pyramid of Light, a underwhelming film, which I admit, didn't do well in the box office. They just broke their budget, meaning that they just made their money back. But they didn't really make gangbusters at the box office. It was considered to be a disappointing appointment for the studio. So in many ways, I can understand that. But Pokemon actually have done well, more so than I think anybody have anticipated. from the first film even to the fourth film, and yet the other films never got that play. Now, a lot of people are saying that this is why one of the main reasons why that they don't get a mainstream review is because the English dub don't really have that good of respect for the resource that they're trying to translate. And to be honest, that could be a fair statement. But even though, if people is willing to see these films, especially if they know the property they've seen, one would think they would actually make it more accessible, at least information-wise, of when this movie's coming out, what day it's gonna, how many screenings it's gonna be, and that way the people, and even trailers, more trailers, both in internet form as well as in traditional media, so that people would be aware of it, talk about it, and actually go see it. I think the results in terms of profit concern will be a lot more better, not just depending on just fan service. Let's keep it real. The fans are going to see these movies. They're fans. Of course, they're going to support the film. Unless they have a very underwhelming trailer, they're going to go out there and they're going to support the film, and they're going to give the film as much love. It's not the fans you want to try and grab. You want to try and grab newcomers. You want to try and grab the people who may not know about about the property, but actually is wanting to go and see it out of curiosity. Those are the people you need to grab. And I'm kind of getting a little annoyed that they only cater to one specific group of people. That doesn't make the minority of the audience. You need to have that casual moviegoer as well as the fans to balance it out. If you're just catering to the fans, chances are your movie's going to go under the radar, which has happened with these two films. Again, I didn't know about this film until, huge fans, those who dedicate their YouTube videos to the subject, actually talked about it. If they didn't talk about it, I would not know this. Right? Not everybody surfs YouTube though. Not everybody, go to Tumblr or Twitter or Facebook though. And they need to do better. And to me, I think Hollywood as well as those in charge of the animation department, both in the U.S. and Japan, needs to do better to bring the word out. And I feel that this, over the last few years, they haven't done a good job of it, which is a shame too, because they're all good Japanese animation films that has been translated into English, that has actually done well, and could have been done even more better have it been promoted. I will say this though, if you're a true Japanese fan, I would check out Mars Girl. I would check out some of the YouTube videos as well as the websites who dedicate themselves in Japanese animation and bring it out. But I do feel that there is an audience out there that is wanting to see it. They just have to do a better job promoting it. I like to hear your opinion on that. I like to hear what your feelings on that, because it is something that I do find disturbing, that two films that was actually done in English dub never really gotten that push that it could have been, that could have been given them that edge they need. Okay, that was number 6. Let's go to number 5, and this is for the video game guys. I think you guys know this is coming, and that is EA, Battlefront, Need for Speed, and other games that has been doing its practices. Review Tech USA talked about it. Angry Joe definitely talked about it. Those who dedicate their lives to gaming, whether it's in media form or just basically making YouTube videos, I've talked about it. I myself had my feelings on that going all the way back to 2007, and I still have feelings on it, and this is probably one of the reasons why I never supported it, because it leads to this kind of nonsense that's going on. And this is why I am very hesitant to buy games going down the road, because to me, and I said this before, I don't like to buy something that I gotta rent later. In other words, if I'm paying a lot of money for a game, I should be, that's it. There shouldn't be no other conditions apply. Where if I got to get a full experience of the game, I got to shell out hundreds of more dollars for a game that will probably be obsolete in the next 6 to 8 months. Which, this is something I think people have forgotten. Those games that you buy will be obsolete very, very soon. Where the point is, if the servers are gone, that you which, by the way, a lot of games do require you have an internet service to play them anyway. If those servers are gone, that's it. There goes your game. To me, that's just unacceptable in my opinion. But that's how I hear it there. I'm talking about the recent event that led to this, and that is loot crates and pretty much gambling, which a lot of people are calling a lot of studios out under. And I got to talk about something in 2007, because before I talk about this, you need to know why I really hate this practice, and that was DLCs. DLCs was the red flag for me. I'm like, okay, downloadable content, okay, fine, but here's the thing: you're asking me to pay more for this content. To me, it should just be a special reward already in the game. That's something that I gotta pay more to get. And I felt, while many people say it's not a big deal, to me it was a big deal, because it could have led to something else that can completely ruin the gaming experience. And sure enough, that's what happened. A lot of games, you need to have online service to play. A lot of games now, they do microtransactions, which is ridiculous. They put paywalls on AAA games now. And now you have a system where, to advance your game, you need these loot crates, and you need these special cards, and you need this and that, which force you to pay more money for a game that that really isn't worth the price of admission. So I'm going to tell you right now, most of these games aren't even worth $60. And for the fact they actually have the Super Edition, the Deluxe Edition, the Mega Edition, the Super Mega Edition, it's ridiculous. Just give me the damn game. That's it. Here's my $60. Give me the game that I paid for. Not a unfinished product that the only way I can actually play the game to its fullest potential is I shell out even more money for a game that I already paid for. That's my problem. And I know you guys may feel like I'm rambling, and to be fair, I maybe am. But I have a beef when companies do this. I have a beef when they actually try to milk their customers for every cent they have, and then try to make excuses, which to me, that's all it is, excuses. Unjustifiable excuse. EA did it with Battlefront. It was a huge, huge disaster off the gate. Especially when they said they announced they ain't going to do more microtransactions, which this really is. Only now you don't even know what you're getting with loot crates. It's ridiculous, and we're seeing it. We're seeing it with our mobile gaming. One of my great classic Angry Joe review was when the Justice League, how they was just milking people for every last cent they have. You got to pay all this money, and you're not even getting the full potential, because they've broken it up in such a way that you have to spend 3 times as much just to get one character, if you're lucky to get that. It was one of the greatest classic examples of highway robbery I've ever seen. And EA and a lot of other companies, it's not just EA. We can easily point the finger at EA to the moon, because they have been notorious about this. They have had a history dating back even to the 90s of poor ethical practices. EA has been in the front of this, but they're not the only one. And to call out what it is, this is the reason why gaming, in my opinion, is in trouble. This is one of the reasons why I simply don't trust the gaming industry right now, because again, you are charging way too much for a game that will be obsolete in less than 6 months' time, maybe even a year, maybe even 2 months. But the fact is that you are in charge all this money for a game that I already paid for is just utterly unacceptable. It's tough enough for a consumer to fork out 60 of their hard-earned money. Now you're asking them to fork up a little more money for skins, for just to advance the play or get a better experience from the play. To me, that's unacceptable. Here's my $60, give me my game, and by the way, thank you. Now, many people say this is to avoid piracy, is to give it full fulfillment. No, it's just simply greedy. Simple as that. And this practice is beginning to take its toll on the consumers and the gamers alike. Gamers are getting fed up by it. Yeah, it was a huge backlash on the Star Wars Battlefront, but the gamers itself, as a whole, is getting fed up by it. They begin to see. But this goes all the way back to downloadable content. Sorry. It goes all the way back to the DLCs. They're the one that started this. That system started the whole thing. Once they realized they can get away with charging this, they found new ways of doing more. They found new ways of, presenting a game only not to give us a game, but part of the game, so they can charge more for stuff that should be already in the game. And now we got this situation. And by the way, I was kind of curious when they were talking about gambling style, and it's gambling. I mean, the way they did it with the cards and Need for Speed, and the way they did it with Battlefront. Some of the stuff they're doing is a gamble. Which, by the way, if you go back into the laws when Nintendo tried this years ago, they got in trouble by Congress. So I don't know if Congress is going to take a look at this. They haven't been very quiet. It's been very, very, hands off on the gaming industry the last few years. But if this continues to be a practice and a trend, especially with the way they're doing it, with the way people are analyzing how much it actually costs for an average gamer to actually get a fulfillment of a game if they was to fork out extra cash on this, Congress is going to start stepping in. There's only so much consumers can take, especially now that you're doing gambling in a AAA game. Simply unacceptable. And I'm very happy, I will say this, that the gaming community is using something like the World Wide Web to spread the word and basically say, hey, look, enough is enough. Stop doing this. This practice is not ethical. It's actually greedy. People are stepping up to the plate and actually talking about it, to the point where certain game industry is saying we do not include loot crates or any of that or any kind in our games. They need to, because they see that it's becoming a problem, and people are fed up by it. Again, you're paying $60 for this game. Why are you charging me more to get a full experience? I should already have a full experience in here. If you want to make it as a lockable character or a lockable item, that's fine. That goes with the territory. You finish the game, there's a lockable item. Now try beating the game with this, or make the game even more harder the next time around, requiring that you get these kind of things. But it's already there, and you earn that reward. Not that you got to pay for it to get a full experience. To me, that doesn't make any sense. And again, they have all these, different versions. Come on. It's a money grab. That's all there is to it. And it has been for years. And to me, this has been an issue. And the third parties need to understand that people are getting fed up by you guys basically nickel and diming them every chance you get. That's all it is. And then still not getting the full fulfillment of the game that you promised that will be doing the final product. But that's been an issue that's going to continue, and I'm hoping now with consumers, opening their eyes to, and gamers opening their eyes that what they're doing, people will start to bark more and more to the point where this practice is curved. Because if they don't, it's going to be huge, and they continue to charge like this, it's going to be a problem. The third-party gaming system is going to have a huge problem in their hands. And it ain't going to just be by consumers either. Trust me, they do not want Congress getting involved. And they may just, especially when some of them require gambling in their system. Now let's move on to the next situation. And this is pretty much mostly Hollywood going all throughout. Number 3, I put in as lackluster blockbusters. The last few years, we're seeing a very huge trend. A lot of the supposedly blockbuster movies, and I've said this before in my Express Myself blog, which I'm going to be working on part 2 very soon, that you see a very serious amount of movies that you normally would think would be blockbuster films coming out in untraditional ways. January normally is the dumber ground, yet you see a couple of films that were normally January films now being pushed into the summer blockbuster films. There's a lot of them this year, trust me. While some of the AAA blockbusters are actually being pushed in January and February. even in March. We see films that you will swear up and down will be out this summer, and yet Justice League was not out during the summertime. Neither was Star Wars. But then again, Star Wars was always traditionally, at least the beginning of their trilogies, was a holiday film. But we're seeing a huge, huge trend. Hell, Thor didn't came out during the summertime. A lot of films are not being released as summer releases. And as a result, we're seeing a huge gap of lack of films that has pretty much either A, underperformed, just plain out bomb, or just went under the radar. There's a lot of films that went under the radar that I even knew they didn't came out. And as a result, we've seen huge losses, huge blockbuster losses in the summertime, to the point where movie theaters are now making suggestions that they should charge extra for AAA films to make up for the revenue loss, because the movie theaters, they're suffering as hard as well because people are not going to the theaters. They're more selective now than ever. So this has been a problem. It has been a huge problem for the box, for the Hollywood, and one may question what are they going to do about it. And this is not just from this year. It's been like this for a couple years now, where more and more films are not performing as well. A lot of it has to do with the fact that there's a lot of sequels that came out. Way too many sequels than they should, and people are sequeled out. Two, some of these sequels are just not that good, and word of mouth have traveled. Three, bad trailers. Simple as that. Trailers that either reveal too much of the film, reveal the ending of the film, or just basically not giving us any reason to go see the film. And Hollywood, while has suffered, at least in the North American circuit, is now looking for, basically a way to curb that, because it is a big problem. And to the point where I don't even think they care about the summer blockbusters anymore. Really, if you look at it, the summer box office hasn't really been that blockbustery. Logan was not a summer blockbuster. It did great. However, being released the way it was released. Same thing with the Justice League. Mixed reviews? Absolutely. But you know what? It still did good. Same thing with Star Wars. So the question is, do they really need it anymore? And if they do, if they still do, and they still consider it to be summer as the Super Bowl of their profits, what can they do to urge people to go see these movies? Because again, they can't keep continuing to go out with losses. Theaters across the country, which by the way, if you guys been following the movie theater trend, can't imagine why, has been closing left and right. There's been less and less movie theaters being open, and more movie theaters are actually closing. That's not a good sign. They already have enough problems facing streaming, which has become their true competition, because some movies are not being released in theaters. They're actually being streamed, and streamed at an alarming rate. And they're actually doing good in streaming. No matter if they're good or bad, they actually got good revenue just being in a streaming service like Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu, you name it. That's their competition. And really, they don't like that competition. Not too long ago, they had a huge fuss about movies being pulled very quickly out of theaters to be put into streaming. There's been a huge issue about movies being put in stream and in theaters, which led to a huge backlog of people not seeing the films, even though that film is good. AKA Beast of No Nation. Beast of No Nation, which people seem to forget that didn't get the same viewing power in theaters that it did when it was on Netflix. Great movie. Deservedly of an Oscar nomination, but didn't really get that much clout because, again, nobody really considered it as a AAA film. And when it was released in select theaters, people just didn't bother flocking to it. Why should they? It's on freaking stream. It got Netflix, they're going to watch it there. So there's a huge issue. Mostly for the movie theaters, because they need the revenue. Keep in mind, they don't make the money off the theater the first week. They make their money from the popcorn and the shoulders and everything else. I believe they had to wait the second or third week before they actually get revenue from that movie. A good chunk of that movie goes to Hollywood. So if that film doesn't get done right, so yeah, some of blockbusters, they need that, and they're not getting it. And guess what? They're now looking at ways to try and make up for that, which is going to cost even more money to go to go see a film. That's going to be an issue. That's something they're talking about. So yeah, the lackluster summer box office had taken its toll, not just on Hollywood, more so than it took its toll on the movie theaters. And they're trying to figure out a way to curb that, which involves us may have paying more for a movie that may not be even worth the price to actually pay for. Keep in mind, a 3D film is $17 in New York. I'm saying New York because I do not know how much it costs outside of the state. So I'm keeping it with New York. But even those who are listening in New York, you know what I'm talking about. $17. $11.50 if you want to see it on regular 3D. That's a lot of money. I'm sorry, it is. That's for one person. I'm not counting popcorn and chips. I'm not counting the sodas and hot dogs. They're getting close to freaking ballpark prices, which is ridiculous. It's one of the reasons why I don't even buy those anymore. I'm not ashamed to say I might sneak a couple of popcorn in just to keep myself full in the stomach. But I'm not paying a lot of money for stuff that is not worth it. But I understand why they do it. They need to compensate for the lack of revenue they're not getting from Hollywood, which is taking almost all of the revenue that's being pulled in by the theaters. I think it's kind of ridiculous, but that's the system is until it's changed. But the lack of the blockbusters is really starting to take its toll on these theaters. And Hollywood. Hollywood lost billions of dollars in North America because of it. Surprisingly, though, and this is something that we also have seen also as a fact, is they actually done well overseas. To the point where movies are actually being released overseas more than they are being released here. But they still doesn't accept the fact is that we have an issue with films not doing well here. And you are hoping, with the lack of the blockbusters this year, that Hollywood will start stepping up their game and bringing out good films and start, actually promoting these films a lot better than what they are in the last few years to get people interested in going to the theaters in the summertime again. Because again, it has been after the big shot films came out, like Wonder Woman and so on, people just wasn't interested in the film. I don't remember people talking about Kidnap. Logan Lucky was talked about, yeah, but it didn't do as well as they would hope. And the film they was actually hoping they would do good, and it is a good film, by the way. Fantastic film. I recommend it. Blade Runner, the sequel, didn't do well here. Fan base people only saw this film. Those who have seen the original, love the original, want to see this film. But it's still a good film. But this is the problem that Hollywood has. Hollywood needs to really change up what they're doing. They need to promote their film much better. They need to have better trailers, period. And they need to basically just recognize that the pattern of not releasing too many sequels at the same time, and just basically giving films that everybody wants. Many people want to blame the comic book industry because it became comic book central with the summer blockbusters, and it's not true. But they need to mix it up a little bit. They need to give people a reason to go to theaters, and have a list of films that pretty damn well on our summer blockbusters being released in the summertime. You may disagree, like to hear your opinion, love to hear what you have to say, but that's also been an issue these last few years with the summer blockbuster. Getting a little more serious here, getting a little bit more into it, because I still got a couple things that I do want to talk about. These three happens to be the biggest of the three, and I'm going to start by whitewashing, which, let's be honest, has been an issue going back all the way back to the 1930s with blackface, all the way down to even Breakfast at Tiffany, which everybody, at least the Asian community, has been hating on. and you also have the situation now with some of the films being released a few not too long ago from the I name escapes me. The Egypt film, which I actually thought was popcorn fun, from even going even back from the 2000 AE BC film. Yeah, I'm getting a lot of names wrong because again, these films, even though they're popcorn films, they're forgettable. Ghost in the Shell being the latest one, of course, and that is many people getting fed up with the poor, unjustified excuse of whitewashing. I'm going to say this right off the bat, and I agree with A-Rod, aka the Blockbuster Buster, when he was asked about this a while back. He feels that the person should get it not based on race, but based on whether he is the right man for the job. And I agree with him. I absolutely agree with him. However, there is an issue. There's a serious issue out there, and that is there is a lack of, of the cast, those who are in charge of the casting, to go out there and actually interview those of ethnic background. Perfect example is The Last Airbender. Last Airbender, the animated series, really showed a multicultural clans. Those who have Asian background, those who have Eskimo backgrounds. They had a little bit of everything, and yet when the movie came out, you see the characters not to their fault. I'm gonna be very specific here. All right, nowhere am I blaming the cast here. Okay, they're not at fault for what has happened. If they were miscast because of those who did the casting, not because of what they did in the movie. It's still not a good movie, but I don't never really blame the cast for being cast into the film. It's a job. You're not going to turn down a job, all right, unless you really believe that the film is not right for you. You're not going to turn down work. That's just simple as that. For these actors, this is work. Okay, and really, when I say this, for any actor who's been in the business long, if you ask them, they're contractors. Once that film is done, they're unemployed. Okay, unless you are Tom Cruise or Kevin Spacey or any of these actors who has been in the business for a while, the chances of you getting on a script is almost non-existent. There are thousands of actors and actresses out there who have worked one film and have never worked again. That's how serious. And that's how competitive the movie business is, the entertainment business is. So for them turning down a role at their age, there may not be another role for them coming next. That goes with any actor. So keep that in mind. That when they presented a script, it's like here. Well, if you don't take this, the chances are you may not get another script, especially if you're not pretty much out there. Your name is not out there. Your name is exposed. So keep that in mind before anybody says, "Oh, they should turn down the script." No, that's pretty much stupid if they did. You're not going to turn down work. That's as simple as that. However, that's why I put it more on the casting, especially since I've heard a lot of dumb excuses about why they can't cast Asians to play the role that was specifically designed for Asians. It just boggles my mind that this continues to go on. And the Ghost in the Shell, I'm not saying if an Asian character would have made the film better. I knew it was universally panned, both by critics and by reviewers and by film goers alike. But I feel that whitewashing does play a big part of this. And I do think that Hollywood needs to start getting out of their conservative bubble and start really looking at new talents, those of Asian background, of African background, those of more ethnic backgrounds. You can't tell me there's not actors out there and actresses out there that can do the role. And a primary example here is, just to throw it back on me here in terms of the African American community, is Nina Simone. A film I reviewed a few years ago, a film that I said right now Zoe Saldana should never have taken the role. I said that. I said, listen, this film was not for her. She should have casted someone else who fits this role. If you got to paint someone's face to make it look darker for them to be more convincing, you already lost the audience. You already lost the audience. All right, people started to reject that in the 30s and 40s. What makes you think they're going to accept it here, even though she has dark skin? No. I think the situation applies here with the Ghost in the Shell and every other film that comes out. And the thing that really bothers a lot of moviegoers now more than ever is a lot of the cast that they did cast of Asian backgrounds or African backgrounds. They are in the background, not in the foreground. They're not the main stars, and that's been an issue. It's been a huge, huge issue, and it's not just U.S. either. Let's be fair here. A lot of the international circuit have the same problem as well. All right, and yes, I must say it that it's a biased system as well, and I call it like it is. It is a biased system. There's a lot of hypocrisy behind this, and that's also been an issue. Prime example: The Hunger Games. People was very mad that an African actress was picked in one role, to the point where they made racial, very, very despicable comments towards an actress who had really nothing to do with her being cast there. The same thing with Annie. Now, would I have done an Annie, African American Annie? No. Did I knew about the African Annie being done? Yes. This was talked about a long, long time ago with Will Smith's daughter playing in the role. Jay-Z wanted to do this for years. All right. Did it work out? No, not really. But you know what really bothers me about it is that they actually made some racist remark saying it's our films. They should get their own film. Why they gotta ruin our property? Wait a minute here. Isn't it the same people that you said that it shouldn't matter whether the person was black or white or not? Isn't the same people who said that if a character who happens to be white should actually, it doesn't matter as long as they can do the role. So it should apply to these peoples, right? Right? I mean, there's a lot of hypocrisy. There's a lot of politics involved. And I feel that Hollywood is caught in the middle. Here's the thing. Hollywood should just not do that. If the person is good for the role, he's good for the role. But I also feel that the Hollywood needs to do better of how they choose their casting. All right? They should look at Asian actors. They should look at African actors. They should look at those of ethnic background as well as those who are Caucasian. I'm not saying just conclude them. What I'm saying is do a better job. They seem to be stuck on that one that one formula that has been outdated for years. All right. The sad fact is, and people say about how African Americans are not giving enough roles and opportunities. Yeah, and so is Asians, which only makes up not even a fraction of these mainstream films. Unless you're Jet Li or Jackie Chan, that's it. Another guy in the Fast and Furious, yeah, he's in there, but he's not the main star, and I don't know what film he have done after that. We're talking about mainstream films, AAA films, and films that should have more of a cultural blend than what they are. I'm being realistic here. The Egypt film that I've seen, that the name I just can't seem to get to my name, people talk about the whitewashing there. I find it, I just laughed because I knew that was coming. Thought the film was just pretty much everything but Egypt, but then again, that is the gods of Egypt. Thank you. I'm trying to get that name on there. We got other films that came out during the years where it was originally supposed to be done by an Asian actor, and it wasn't done. Asian actors was there, but not the main stars. It was still done by Caucasians. The Last Airbender. We have Ghost in the Shell. We even had Doctor Strange. We had a lot of films that many people are pointing out. And I think Hollywood need to start listening and say, you know what, we need to change it up. We need to stop with this rhetoric nonsense. We're going to stop with this, let's be honest, prejudice method of casting. It is a prejudice method. And I can say that because, number one, I know the history of Hollywood. I never forgot what Bruce Lee had to go through to get his one and only American film done when he was the main star and the majority of the cast was Asian. Hence, Enter the Dragon. And if you guys don't know what I'm talking about with that film, go look at Bruce Lee's documentary on how he had to go through hell and high waters just to get attention in Hollywood. How they pretty much stolen his idea for Kung Fu. How he had to go out back into China to make films that was so popular it actually reached the American circuit. He became a hero in the American circuit for basically a lot of ethnic groups, to the point where Hollywood had no choice but to listen to him. And when it came to Enter the Dragon, and you would think after he made that masterpiece that they will actually open the doors more for more Asian actors to take lead roles. That never happened. It never happened. And to me, that's sad. When you talk about African Americans and how they need more roles, I'm looking at the Asians and they're just in the same boat, even worse than African Americans. Say what you want. We did have some very important roles and very good films and good mainstream films. I can't say that to the Asian population in Hollywood. I can't. There hasn't been a single movie that I have actually remembered where I've seen a dominant Asian cast or just multiple Asian actors other than Jackie Chan, Jet Li, and of course IP Man. That's how I call him. I know his name is something else, but he's IP Man in my opinion. He's great. He's great. Yang, I like to call him. He's fantastic. But other than that, can you honestly say a mainstream film when the actor is Asian? When's the last time you've seen that anywhere in Hollywood, American Hollywood? Can't. And the film you did see wasn't made in American Hollywood. It was made overseas. Hence, IP Man. My opinion. I like to hear what you have to say. I like to hear what you're feeling on that. But that's my feeling on it. I really, really have a problem when I see that go through. Another one. This is 2, and probably would have been number 1 if it wasn't for the other event that just is not going away. But I think you guys know what I'm talking about. But I have to address this movie, because this movie is a prime example of not to do when you're dealing not just with moviegoers, but just with consumers in general. This goes back to my beef with how Hollywood has been promoting a lot of the mainstream films, my beef with just how even video games has been putting out their products. I am talking about one film, of course, but this is pretty much goes to the large scale of Hollywood not doing this, need to stop doing this, and this is the first time, make it the last time. This is not the last time, of course. There was actually another film that did this, but it was not a movie theater release. And needless to say, they actually suffered from this. They did. They didn't get away with what they had, but it was an unfinished product. And that's the whole thing with the Snowman. Now look, I saw the poster of Snowman. I wasn't interested. I heard about the film, wasn't interested. I don't even know what book. I know it's based on one of the 2 books. I think the Film Brain had mentioned what the book was, but I wasn't interested. But people who did see the film left angry, left just basically enraged, to the point where they really want their money back for this piece of trash film that they all said. And I asked a friend of mine, because he did see it, and he was very disgusted. He wasted $11. But I asked him what was so bad about the film. What was so bad? Was it the acting? He said, yeah, the acting was bad, but that's not it. Is it the pacing? Oh, it's not that. I said, so I don't understand. If it's not the acting or the pacing or the story, which you all said it was bad, but that's not what you're angry for. What are you really angry for? And he said something that just raised my eyebrow. The film wasn't done. I mean, what, you walked out before the film was even. No, he said the film was not done, meaning they didn't finish the film. And they said, how can you tell? And he said, no, trust me, you can tell. The film wasn't done. Now, at first, I just thought he was just that angry and just that upset that I was disappointed, and I was like, okay, well, maybe he's just so angry because the film was so bad that he's just saying it's just an incomplete film. We have heard about video games saying the film was rushed and it didn't feel like they completed, or they felt like a lot of stuff was missing. We've seen this countless times with games, both in PC and also in some of our AAA games. God knows I've seen Angry Joe rant about that for over the last few years. But then I started doing my research, and I started looking and said, oh, he's right. They didn't finish this film. This film is not 100% complete. How you release a film that's not 100% complete? I can understand if there was two different versions where you had like what Hollywood has been doing lately with their AAA films, release this version first and then give the full feel version, the rated R version, which is ridiculous, out on DVD. No, this film was not done. So, and I thought, okay, I can't be reading this wrong. But then Double Toaster talked about it. Other reviewers talk about it. And I'm like, wow. Now all of a sudden I'm glad it's been $11.50 for this movie. How do you release a film not done? That's ridiculous. You do realize moviegoers spend a lot of money both in the tickets and in concessions to watch your film. Good or bad, that's fine. That's up to the person. There are a lot of, everybody says their films are bad, but at least release the film complete. It reminds me of that found footage film, The Devil Inside, when people actually booed the ending because it really wasn't an ending, where they showed go to this website. At least that film was done. It was a terrible ending, there's no question, but at least it was done. This film was not done. And for some reason, I don't know what it is, they decided to release the film. And there could be a lot of reasons for this. One, budgeting. They ran out of money and the studio said, no, we're not going to do, that's it. We're not, giving you any more money. But we haven't done the ending, we haven't done the middle part yet. No, I don't care. We're not giving you any more money. To me, you shelved it. Put it on the back burner. Try and renegotiate whatever money you can get, or just wait, don't release the film. They released this film, hoping that no one would notice. Basically saying that maybe the audience is stupid enough they won't notice that we didn't finish the film. No, they noticed, and people are upset. This made the worst list of a lot of people because of it. And you know what? I cannot blame them. I cannot blame them. You cannot release a terrible product like this and expect people to go along with it. It's just not going to work. And that's exactly what they did here. They released a incomplete product, and the result was just gloriously bad. I mean, it was a disaster. Mind you, Hollywood, people are spending a lot of money for your movie. They do expect a finished product. They do expect your film not only to be good, but just to be complete. Your movie may have been bad, and I've seen the reviews, and again, I can't say your film is good or bad, because I didn't see the movie. I'm going to be real. Some people may have actually liked your film, but no one liked the fact that there was an incomplete product. Wow. We really come to this now. I'm hoping this is the last time we hear something about a film not being finished, because that to me is unacceptable. That to me is a ripoff. And for the record, in case you guys don't know what film I was talking about earlier, that they actually released it on video. DVD wasn't around yet. It was Sleeper Ran Camp 4. That film was not done. Then how they did it was do it through flashbacks, which was the entire film. I think Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 also had the same scenario where they actually retold a good majority of the film through flashbacks, and I think the last third of the film was when the original film is, thus not completed. Again, I gotta say this though, and I'm not justifying that either. Those films were actually video made direct to video. They wasn't AAA. They wasn't even B. They were C and D films, where there was no way going to be in theaters. No way that if you're going to see it, you're going to see it on your own risk. And there wasn't even no internet back then, so you didn't even realize what it was until you saw the film and then word of mouth happened. This is a film that made the theaters, and it had a large release with a very strong cast. And for them to have this film not done and still release it anyway is simply inexcusable and just downright greedy. They wanted to make as much money as they could, and they said, you know what, we're going to release anyway. This was a big mistake. And for me, it also brings a lack of confidence in the studios that made this film. If you are guys willing to release a film that's not done, what makes you think you won't do anything else that's pretty much unethical or just plain this plain money grabbing? That's the best way I can say it. I have no confidence in your studios to give me a good quality on film, whether good or bad. I'm not saying every film should be a masterpiece, but I do expect the film to be complete. And if I can't trust you to release a film complete, I'm not going to watch your movies. I don't care what studio you are. I don't care what your excuse was. There's no excuse for that. None. At all. And this has been a problem, not just in theaters, movies, but even in the video game itself. How many times have you heard stories about games not being done right? Unfinished games. Games that's missing levels. You can't do that with your consumers. You cannot release a product that you're expecting people to pay lots of money and then not expect the backlash for you not finishing that product. This is an unfinished product. You should never release it. I don't know who thought that was a good idea to do it. I don't know who thought this was a smart idea. But to me, it was a terrible idea. And it brings mistrust to the studio who did this. I got no confidence in that studio at all after that. You just basically waste my time. Or in this case, waste those audience time by paying all this money and their film wasn't even done. Finish your film, make sure it's edited good, and when it's done, bring and release it. If it's not done and you can't get any more money from the studios for whatever reason, don't release it. Because people's going to notice when the film is finished or not. People are going to notice there's going to be missing scenes. People are going to notice that this film is a lot shorter than what it was advertised. If people notice about how incomplete the Batman v Superman film was, and how people were saying on the internet how that film could have been a much better film after they released it in the way that it was supposed to be released, what makes you think people are going to call you out on this? This is why you're number 2. You deceive, and it's shady practices at its worst. And like I said, you're lucky this story came out, because you would have been number 1. I would have been ranting even more about it. Which I'm going to be ranting right now. You should know what's number 1 in Hollywood. And trust me, this is not goes just by this man. It goes by other actors in the past, all the way to now. And it ain't going to end. Oh, trust me. This is going to be more about this, and you're going to hear more coming on the woodwork. Daily News dedicated a column to this, and is how can I say this very, very sharply, that what this person have done, what the district attorneys have failed to do, will have a backlash in Hollywood and in entertainment for years to come. Harvey Weinstein. Now, the harassment suits from many of the main stars, main actresses, has been widespread. But this goes even beyond the Weinstein situation, because the fallout of this has led to other allegations be done by other actors that is basically raising eyebrows to outright shock. This domino effect that Harvey Weinstein has done have pretty much opened up some floodgates about some of the practices of Hollywood, as well as how women are treated in Hollywood, and just treated in the workplace. This goes even beyond just in Hollywood, because it does bring up a very serious problem that a lot of people is having, and that is power, too much power, and how power can be abused. Harvey Weinstein has been accused, it's been mentioned in the newspaper before. There's actually been an investigation that happened years ago, but never went anywhere, because again, the prosecutor at the time decided there was not enough evidence, even despite the fact that one of the women who was participating in this investigation had been wired, and he basically confessed of doing something inappropriate. But again, that was not enough proof for the district attorney. Turns out that not only did the attorney didn't do his job properly, but he may have been corrupted, because number one, it was told that he has been purchasing gifts and everything else, and right there, that should have been a red flag. Okay, he should never have got involved, because I don't care what anybody says or what excuse he wants to say. You cannot be involved in something when you are linked to the investigation in that fashion. You have to excuse yourself. If he would excuse himself and let another district attorney who doesn't have ties, then we may have seen this situation or this bombshell a little differently. But he didn't excuse himself, and he basically dismissed the case. They have been trying to make it right, but to me, the damage has already been done. And now we're hearing so much about what's been going on with this case, that now it's this boil over more than the Weinstein situation. The Weinstein situation has had a backlash on his company. A movie bombed hard to the point we didn't even know this movie came out. We don't even know how much it made, but we do know how much it was cost to produce, but we do know it didn't make anywhere close to what it comes back. It didn't even barely touch $1 million. And there are other films from the Weinstein Company that's coming out that may feel the same effect because of the name alone. More and more victims are coming out. More and more people are coming out, and the reason why they didn't come out earlier is the exact same reason why that the prosecutor had dropped the ball completely, and that is he had power, lots of power, and that power alone had influenced the prosecutor for doing his job in terms of investigating and prosecuting the perpetrator. Simple as that. All right, and this has been an issue, especially in Hollywood, where people are afraid to step forward because of the power and the repercussion that they would have faced if they would come forward. All right, there are people out there, people who still haven't come out, who are scared because, one, this is a very powerful man in Hollywood, and that person can easily ruin any actor's careers, reputations. All right, even though he's guilty, he has that power to do so. He's already proven that by basically influencing the prosecutor. What makes you think he wouldn't try and influence the careers of the victims he had violated? So this has been an issue. This has been a serious issue, and now we're seeing the repercussions. And it just goes way beyond Weinstein. All right, it goes by the actors that we're seeing here: Kevin Spacey, Dustin Hoffman, and now recently Ben Vereen, the person who I grew up with Webster. So we're seeing a backlash here. This is serious, and we're only going to hear more and more about this, because again, the Harvey Weinstein situation, they're reinvestigating it, not just in New York but also in Los Angeles. And they are, pushing to see if any more victims come out, which they have. The latest one being Salma Hayek. So this is not going to go away. This is going to continue more and more, and it's also going to open the door to a lot of the big shots in Hollywood who has this type of power and has been abusing it, as well as corrupting the system that are supposed to investigate crimes like this. It also shows straight up just how pretty much detached and how much bias the criminal system, just pretty much the justice system, is. If Harvey Weinstein was an average Joe, and these stars would come out, or even more so, a person will come out making these allegations, would you think they would have done it with, investigate with kid gloves, or just lightly brush it aside? No, they would pursue it to the bitter end. But Harvey Weinstein got some money. Lots of it. He could influence people with that money. He has the resources in his disposal. And sadly, and I'll say this, there is still a perception, a very bad perception, that those with this type of money, those with this type of power, can never do no wrong. There is a negative perception about this, that those who has rich and famous and have all this wealth and all this companies, they ain't gonna have bad. They have no reason to do bad. Look at them. Look at the success they have. While the poor, sadly, all look very differently. They can't wait to prosecute a person, whether he is guilty or not, whether they have even evidence or not about this. But when it comes to the rich, they drag their feet. They oftentimes look for excuse not to prosecute them, or just because they have given them a bribe, aka a gift or a donation, they feel, okay, we don't have enough proof for this. Even though we did the wiretap and he confessed of doing this, we still don't have enough proof for this. If anything that comes out of this, it will wake up more people into the situation of how serious, especially with female actresses who, let's be honest, in terms of Hollywood, hasn't been given the same treatment as their male counterparts. I've said this before with a lot of the female actresses who really have to run an extra mile to get starring roles. Look how long it took to get us a Wonder Woman film. I'm still waiting for the Black Widow film. And the film that they do get, you gotta hope they don't sexualize them or make them look like dumb fools. Which, if you look at Hollywood history, that's tend to happen a lot. But to me, this is a prime example of this, and I really hope that as the years go on, that more and more people speak out, and more people will actually take actions. I still don't know what the prosecutor is going to do. They already boxed it up in the more time. The Bill Cosby situation is still going on. Who knows what the end result is going to happen? And we don't even know what's going on with the actors involved in this latest situation. I do know Kevin Spacey's career is pretty much done. He's not even going to be in the last season of House of Cards, and he basically is the face of that show. Dustin Hoffman haven't really, we don't know what his fate is going to be in Hollywood now with this situation. Ben Marine stage career could be over. But really, is that really enough? Or is there more of a serious problem that we need to address and have to address? I know Double Toasted had brought up some of the lifestyles of the 70s with Bill Cosby and why they're not shocked about it. But we're talking about a different generation now, and even though it's no excuse for anyone to do these type of acts, to have that kind of power over another person, because that's what it is. It's all about power. And again, I have to stress it with the law system. I'm really upset with our justice system, because they keep proving time and time again that it's not really about justice, but about how much money you have in your wallet that we're really going to go to the extra mile to actually, prosecute you. Oh, you got money? Okay, we respect you. You don't have money? Well, you're just another trash to us. I'd love to hear your opinion on this. I know this sounds a little bit more political, but when it comes to Hollywood, you got to understand something. There is a lot of politics. A lot of politics of how our films are released. A lot of politics of how our games are produced. A lot of stuff is revolving politics. There's no way around it. You may think it doesn't, but it is. And these top lists that I have, these 6 lists, have a lot to do with politics and decision making. Yeah, there was a lot of bad decision making this year, but there was also some good things that happened here. Star Wars film got good praise from the critics. opened up a debate about what's to keep as Star Wars, because the film, as you all know, by audience's perspective, didn't do as well as they hope, or was a little bit disappointed in how the road to go, and that's a good thing. It opens the door what improvements that can be made. And trust me when I say this, Lucasfilms, aka Disney, do listen a lot more than you think. It's one of the reasons why we had a different Star Wars film. Films that normally is looking to be mediocre to okay actually has gotten rave reviews. It has been good for some of the actors, especially for one guy who I was all be up and down with, and that is David Franco. In his Disaster Artist, he got great reviews, and as well as been possibly pushed to Nosgod. It's good to see that Jim Carrey is back in the scene. He hasn't made a film in almost 5 years, and even though it's a documentary, it's still a Jim Carrey film nonetheless. It has been a relatively good year, especially for some reoccurring shows. Shows that still haven't come out yet. Many people said that they expect some good things from it. Still don't know what I'm expecting from Roseanne, though. I'm actually going to keep myself on the fence for that. I was disappointed in the last 3 seasons that they have done. But I'm really feel that there were some good things that Hollywood has done. Very great things. So I'm not just here to bash on Hollywood and the entertainment world, but I am bringing these out because these were the most impactful, both from the perspective of the moviegoers, the perspective of the gamers, and perspective of how our political as well as our entertainment climate is to this day. And to me, these are going to have a strong impact for years to come. This is not just going to go away in 2017. This is going to leap right over to 2018, 19, even in 20, because again, there are some practices that are already in place that either A, outdated, or just B, need to be reviewed and just basically removed. There are some still some fear within certain cast members, certain actors who have been victim of this crime but are afraid to speak out, because if they do, their career is over, because the person is so powerful that he does have that power to actually put a foot in someone's career and basically ruined it permanently from here on out. So these are things that are very important and need to be addressed and need to be talked about throughout the years to come, and not be put aside or swept under the rug. But I'd like to hear your opinion on it. I'd like to hear what you have to say. And until next time, guys, I hope you guys support the independent music writers. Go out and check out some of these great fan films. They need your support. They've actually done a great job of doing that. I will give a shout out to some of them, these wonderful fan filmmakers in the near future. And until next time, J77 saying take care, be safe. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.